So as I'm editing this video, I thought it was important to note that I have absolutely no knowledge of any of the aftermath of Stranger Things Season 4 coming out, meaning that I have no knowledge of the Duffer Brothers or Sean Levy or any of the actors or anybody else answering any questions from fans that might have come up after this season. So if there's anything that I talk about in this video that any of the people involved with the show have already answered or cleared up, I wouldn't know about that. So please don't come at me if that's the case. Okay.
Some of my issues with Stranger Things Season 4. Hello everyone, my name is Lucy. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't made a lot of videos on Stranger Things, but I must say that I love the show and I'm very partial to the first two seasons. I'm sure you're all aware that the fourth season has recently been released, and for anyone who hasn't seen all of it yet, there will be spoilers ahead. I simultaneously loved and didn't really like Season 4. There were a lot of things that I thought they did very well. I loved that Steve and Robin were still best friends. Lucas's arc was great and he deserves the world. Steve and Dustin are always the best. Murray is an absolute legend. And there were some great, fun new characters, among other things. That said, I have some issues with the season too. These vary from things I just didn't really appreciate to things that the writers and creators totally butchered and dropped the ball on. All in all, I'm not thrilled about where the show has been going in terms of its story, but I still love the show, its characters, and its concept, and I love talking about it. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's get into it. The continuity. I don't know if it's because the writers just forgot about certain things or that they didn't think fans would remember or care, but there were some serious continuity errors that came up this season. They vary from Jonathan's college to the kids in the lab to pixie dust. I'll try to remember all of the things that bothered me, but there may be some things that I forgot. If there are, feel free to comment them down below. I'll start out with a more nitpicky one. Jonathan's college. At the beginning of the season, Jonathan rants to Argyle about how he got into Lenora Community, and how he isn't going to Emerson with Nancy. But in Season 1, Joyce says to Lonnie that Jonathan has wanted to go to NYU since he was 6 years old. Now, I know that it's a teenager's privilege to change their mind, and Jonathan might have done that, but it's still a continuity error not to even mention it. All it would have taken was one line. Jonathan saying, "I thought I wanted to go to NYU, but yada yada yada." That's all it could have been. But instead, it just came across as the writers forgetting about it or not caring enough about Jonathan's character to do their homework. Not cool, guys, and we'll get to more of that later. The next continuity issue that I am super confused about is that of the kids in Hawkins' lab. Now, when Eleven was exploring her past and recollecting her time in the lab, we got to spend time with the other test subjects and see what kind of dynamic Eleven had with them. I'm sure we all remember that this isn't the first time we come across one of Eleven's, quote, siblings in the show. In Season 2, we met 8, an escaped kid from the lab with a cool new set of powers. Powers distinctly different than Eleven's. I don't know about anyone else, but the fact that Elle and 8 had different powers had me thinking that every single one of the kids in the lab had a different gift or power. Instead, it's clear from the tests in Season 4 that all the other kids had the same telepathic powers as Elle. Was 8 just a really special subject who was way different and that's why she escaped? Or was it another huge continuity error? Whatever the reason, all of the kids having different powers was a fun thing to think about. There could have been a kid who could walk through solid objects, a teleporting kid, a shape-shifting kid, a kid who could hear really well, like Dolores from Encanto. You name it. Although, if that was the direction they went with, it probably would turn into Dr. Brenner running a really chaotic daycare pretty fast. I feel like the teleporting kid would be a real nuisance for him. Moving on. Another issue I had with the other kids in the lab was how eloquently some of them could speak compared to others. 2, for example, had no trouble coming up with insults, having conversations, and speaking in complete sentences. My main question concerning this choice is, why is that? If you can remember, when Elle first escaped the lab, years later, mind you, she was like a little puppy. She didn't know a lot of words or how to construct them into sentences. I assumed it was because English lessons weren't part of the daily routine at the lab, and that made sense. So, why is it that some of the kids, like number 2, have so much more eloquence? I genuinely don't know. It's something that I'm actually really confused about. The last continuity issue I want to talk about concerns the Upside Down itself. Now, I know that a huge part of the show is about uncovering the secrets of the Upside Down, as a new threat from the Upside Down has come up every single season. In all fairness, I'm sure there are still a lot of things that the characters don't know about the other dimension. However, there was a very strange moment of discovery this past season. I'm sure you can guess what I'm referring to. It involves faith and trust. And yes, there's something I forgot. Dust.
Dust. Dust? Dust.
Yep, just a little bit of pixie dust. What was this? Do any of you remember there being any shiny pixie dust surrounding any of the lights in the Upside Down in previous seasons? No! There was even that moment in season 1 where Joyce and Hopper were walking through the buyer's house and turning all the Christmas lights on just by passing through the hallway. Jonathan even knew it was them and said, "Mom?" Side note, I have always loved that moment. So why was there suddenly pixie dust around all the lights? You could say, oh, it's just there to make a more specific flicker. But then I'd just say, then why is it only visible this season? Just look at any footage from the Upside Down in previous seasons. There won't be any pixie dust. I promise. The expansion. Remember when Stranger Things was exclusively about a small town and everyone and everything that was important was there? I miss that. I won't talk about this for too long, but all in all, this show has really, really gone off the rails concerning where all of the characters are. In season 1, Joyce freaked out and went to the police station because Will wasn't home for one morning. At this point, different people are gone for days, and yes, while they usually have a cover-up or excuse, it doesn't have that same homey, small-town feeling anymore. We had a group in Hawkins, but we had another group driving cross-country and another group in Alaska and then Russia. Because of this, they didn't have much of a chance to all come together for the climax of the season, like they usually do. That said, I really hope that for season 5, they rein it back in. Please. We don't need to see the characters anywhere else. We just want to see Hawkins. And Murray's Place. Jonathan's character. I just have one question. What happened to Jonathan this season? They really took one of season 1's main characters and turned him into the joke of season 4. They turned his character on its head and scrapped his relationship arcs with various other characters like Will, Nancy, and Joyce. I seriously cannot believe how sidelined he was this season. The only scene with Jonathan that holds any value was when he had his heart-to-heart with Will at the end of Volume 2. Other than that, nothing. Just acting high. Charlie Heaton's talent was completely wasted, and for what? To add comic relief? To prioritize other characters? To make Steve look better? I'm honestly not sure, but if it's the latter, I'd be even more upset. Newsflash, writers. Bringing Jonathan down doesn't bring Steve up. And as if Steve even needs bringing up to begin with. I think that most of us can already agree he's one of the best parts of the show. I love Steve, you love Steve, everybody loves Steve. That said, I also have always loved Jonathan. He has the sweetest relationship with Will, he's always there for Joyce, and he's learned a lot from being with Nancy and vice versa. All in all, he deserved so much better. And that brings me to my next point. Steve and Nancy. I genuinely don't know what they were thinking with this one. Trying to rekindle Steve and Nancy's relationship? Where did this even come from? And besides coming from nowhere at all, it's terrible for a multitude of reasons. Do you realize how much they'd backpedal on both Steve and Nancy's character development if they ever got back together? Let's start with Steve. Now, it's clear in Season 2 that Steve deserves a lot better. I'm not saying that Nancy was abusive or anything, but when she was with Steve, she clearly wasn't very committed to him. It's made clear that she only got back together with Steve after Season 1 because Jonathan took too long to make a move. In Season 2, she drunkenly called their relationship BS, and she actually cheated on him. Up until this season, I really thought that part of Steve's character arc was realizing that he deserves better, and someone who really likes him. Getting back with Nancy would destroy that. I wouldn't even really mind if in Season 4 he thought he had feelings for Nancy again, but then at the end of the season realized that he just misses being in a committed relationship. I think that would be a really good arc for Steve this season. Then Season 5, he'd finally find his special someone. But no, after that personal confession in Volume 2, I don't know what the heck is gonna happen. Let's move on to Nancy. Like I said, she was with Steve in Season 2 because she didn't think Jonathan would ever say anything. Murray even highlights that Nancy doesn't have real feelings for Steve that same season. So, referencing Season 2 and all they went through in Season 3, Nancy and Jonathan have seemingly built something really great. They've grown together, complement each other, and they make an unstoppable team. That's why the idea that she'd go back to Steve right when things get moderately difficult with Jonathan doesn't seem right at all to me. Outside of all three of them deserving better than that, it would severely backpedal on her character development as well. Plus, it would mean that Murray was wrong, and we can't have that. I just really hope that Nancy and Jonathan have the serious, mature conversation they need to have at some point, because Lord knows they didn't even come close to having it at the end of Season 4. 1's speech to 11. Now, I want to make it clear that this was a cool scene as far as a, quote, big reveal goes. It was definitely a great shock to me finding out that Victor Creel's son is number 1, and I liked the intercutting with Nancy. However, the context of the speech itself felt a little nuts. Why is Henry telling all of this to Elle? I understand the basis of a revealing backstory, but if you think about the context of Elle's situation and the fact that we as an audience know a lot more than she does, it's an oddly specific speech. Considering that Henry is only telling this to Elle in the scene, he definitely didn't have to go into that much detail about how he killed every individual member of his family. Furthermore, he didn't have to go into that much detail about his fascination with spiders either, or how he passed out after killing his family, or how his father got blamed for everything. 11 probably didn't care about any of that. Let's be honest, that was all for us, the audience. I can understand it, but the fact that it meant a lot more to the audience than it ever would to Eleven didn't make it a contextually appropriate speech or reveal. Seriously, if I were Elle, I'd be thinking, why is he telling me all of this? I wish I'd brought some trail mix or something. The repetitive death formula. Some of you might be wondering, repetitive death formula? What does that mean? Well, allow me to elaborate. Stranger Things, when it comes to introducing and killing off characters, has a very static formula. Every season, they introduce a new, lovable character who contributes to the story but isn't necessarily what you'd call a main character. By the end of the season, this person dies. Season 1 was Barb, Season 2 was Bob, Season 3 was Alexi, and Season 4 was Eddie. As far as selecting which characters to kill off, over the years, one thing has become extremely clear. They do this because they don't have it in them to kill off any of their main cast. Case in point, they didn't actually go through with killing off Max this season, even though narratively that would have made a lot of sense. This formula has become so predictable that I had no doubt in my mind while watching this season that Eddie was on his way out. I'm sure that a lot of you can relate. His death was very sad and also made sense for his arc of not running away from danger in real life, but it also felt inauthentic in a way. It was as if the showrunners were saying, this had to happen because that's how the formula is. And you don't want that. Now, I believe I read that the Duffer Brothers will not be bringing in any new characters for Season 5, which makes me all the more curious of who they might kill off by the end of the series. Is everyone fair game now? Thank you ever so much for watching this video. Please do not forget to like it and subscribe to my channel and comment below your thoughts. Maybe comment down below any issues that you had with Stranger Things Season 4, or your favorite part of Stranger Things Season 4, or your favorite character from Stranger Things, or your favorite season. I personally really loved Season 2. It just, I guess, is a comfort season of mine. But just talk to me about Stranger Things. I would love to hear from you. If you want, you could also make a prediction for who you think might die by the end of Season 5. Thank you so much for watching again, and I hope that you have a wonderful, amazing day.